If you want to actually be aesthetic, you have to develop every muscle in your body. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. It's something I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. Again, it's one of those things where I've had to learn this the hard way myself. Again, having come from a powerlifting background, strength background has not left me with the most aesthetic physique. And as I've continued to work on that, and I've been working on that, for close to a year at this point, and I've made a lot of progress. This is something I have come to realize, having come from a different background from that, even though I've coached people who do physique stuff, is we really can't leave any muscle underdeveloped, right? Any muscle that you have that is underdeveloped is going to be a glaring weakness, okay? And it doesn't mean you don't have to work inside of your individual genetics. Obviously, different people are going to have different structures. They're going to have different shapes. But the way I've even seen it put by really some of the better coaches I've met, who even coach like natural physique pros in different divisions, I've seen many of them say, look, for that purpose, like, you don't worry about your genetic structure. You don't train around your genetics. Like, you let your genetics pick what division you compete in. Your job is to develop everything, right? You need to build every muscle, and then you diet down to the appropriate body fat for your type of competition, right? You figure out which one you have the right structure for, then you diet to the appropriate level of body fat for it. He goes, but you need to develop everything. And I've seen that said by more than one person who really, quite frankly, produce quite a few pro card holders. And isn't that idea true when we're discussing these things? Isn't it true even for everyday aesthetics? When you think of someone who really has a good physique, when you see them next to someone with a better physique, almost always what do you see? The person with the better physique is just more well-rounded. They don't have as many weak points. They just built everything. And this is something I am learning that I really have to do. Yes, we know my arms need to come up, right? My arms are a big deal. Obviously, I have to get leaner. I've got to tighten up the loose skin, which we see in all this, which happens as I continue to lose body fat. But I was over 300 pounds at one time before I started lifting. So, we tighten these things up. And I'm almost 50 years old at this point, so we've got to tighten it up. But the thing is, you really can't leave anything undertrained, because anything that's undertrained is going to be noticed. Like you guys can see right there, walking away from the camera, you can see where my strong points are, both genetically and due to the way I trained for powerlifting. Right, things my lats, my hamstrings, my quads, this is all jacked. My calves are genetic, but I've even learned that I need to train them. Okay, you got to train everything though. But you can look at all that. You can tell that my triceps need more work, my biceps. You can see my rear delts, my side delts, all of that needs work, okay? And if a person doesn't train their calves, you notice. If a person doesn't train their forearms, you're going to notice. And you might not notice at first with an untrained eye until they stand next to someone who has everything put together. Okay, you'll notice where their differences are. I mean, that was something I noticed because apparently, as I've realized in certain situations, the camera doesn't do me as much justice as I'd like. I don't have the best lighting. That's the thing I noticed even when I got in a gym around a bunch of guys, hardcore gym guys on gear. I thought it was fascinating. Actually, many of them had a better overall physique, more put together. They all had better arms than me, though. They all had better arms. But you could really see the details of things, of the wider back, the quads, all that. I ended up having a better V-taper just because my back is wide enough. Shoulders are wide enough. So you see those things. But then I also realize, there are things I have to work on. But it's true of everyone. But you notice that when you get people next to others, someone who looks good and has maybe a dominant body part or two, that really might stand out when you see them by themselves. But when you see them next to someone else who lifts, that person who is just better, more well-rounded development, you're going to notice. And we all notice it. Okay, we all notice it. And so my point here is, if you're going to look good, you really do need to train everything. You can't have muscles that you ignore. right? You can't have muscles that you ignore. You can't ignore your upper chest. You can't ignore your rear delts. You can't ignore your forearms. You can't ignore your calves or your hamstrings or anything. You can't. Because then you're going to have something underdeveloped. Can you have favorites? Sure. You know, is anyone ever going to look worse because they have more bicep? Probably not. Right? Unless they're insanely imbalanced, but even then they still look pretty decent if they got delts and biceps. You know, so there's certain muscles you really are never going to go wrong just because we expect to see them big on people who lift. Ironically, arms, my worst body part. But you can't have anything that lacks. You can't have anything that you ignore, or you're just simply not going to look good. And here's my point. You're going to go to the gym anyways. You're going to put in the time anyways. And then we come over to that other point when it comes to health benefits. Let's set aside even looking good naked. Let's set that aside. Okay? How about the health benefits? We know the more muscle you can gain, the better. So your muscle groups that are untrained have the most growth potential. That's the most benefit for improving metabolic capacity, metabolic health, lowering cancer rates, lowering diabetes rates, all that stuff. Gaining any muscle everywhere is useful to those. That is pretty much a scientific fact at this point. So you see where we're going? So yeah, you should train everything. And here's the other thing. From an aesthetics perspective, we're not even talking about winning bodybuilding shows. We're talking about just looking good. Every single person out there, you know this is true when you look at someone. You're all going to look good. You're going to look extremely impressive to the average person if you actually train every muscle in your body. You don't have to be massive. It just needs to be trained. You gain muscle in every single muscle in your body. And you diet down lean enough to see your six-pack. Okay? And this applies to women too. If you do that, almost everyone who sees you, other than a handful of people, and sometimes it's their own bias because they hate fitness because of their own issues. Okay? But is that then jealousy? Right? But to almost everyone who sees you, they're going to say, hey, that person has a nice body. They have a nice physique. Okay? Without fail. Even if that's not their thing, it will be noticed. It'll be noticed. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.